It is these transitional times of year, the early part of fall, early mid-fall, and then the same thing happens early mid-spring, when quite frankly, any type of long-range weather forecasting is probably at its most difficult of the year. Here's what we have the status right now. First of all, we're getting into the real peak of harvest season throughout the northern plains, upper Midwest. We've had some rain, significant rain in parts of the area, especially some parts of North Dakota this past week. It has turned somewhat cool, although we've had a few warm days, somewhat cooler relative to average. And we've already seen in September a few stray frosts. We may be looking at another one. And that may be, in some cases this week, chances are, the first widespread frost for some parts of the area, although, as I mentioned, in some places, there has already been a frost. Here's the basic pattern. Jet stream's been quite high amplitude and quite active of late. It has brought this cool weather, which is mostly here in the northern plains, rain-cooled weather. But it has brought a little dip into the jet stream. Fairly warm weather continues over the eastern part of the United States. This cool weather is going to retreat as a drier air comes in, but I think we have a couple of opportunities this week once the clouds and rain moves out of the northern plains for some frost. I'm not sure how far south that would go. Probably not so likely in Iowa, but Dakotas, Minnesota, there might be some midweek frost this week. But that will quickly change as the cold air is shunted eastward later in the week. High pressure ridge proceeds to build out over the Rockies, but it's not really going to bring a great deal of heat. The hot weather will mostly be confined to the southwest, although by the time we get to next weekend, warm weather will build northward. So here's what we're looking at then for precipitation. At the present time, of course, we're dealing with weekend rain. That's why it's so cold. The rain gradually moves east, gets a second wave surging up, which is why that rain will linger in the northern plains and Great Lakes for so long. And then as that moves away, I think one more surge will come up through this system, but it'll be further east by that time. And that's the way that's going there. We may look for some rain to come out of the Rockies toward the end of the week, and we're not sure how much that will expand, but there it is. That's a possibility. Now, here's what we're looking at for the first week of October. A little bit of a change in the jet stream pattern that I think will lend itself towards some cool weather building back into the northern Rockies, which might try to push out to some extent into the plains. And with that in mind, the next precipitation maker, which will probably come out of the Rockies, might be one with rain turning to snow and not just in the mountains. I doubt that would penetrate very far east of the mountains, but it could be another round of cold rain, possibly significant rain for parts of the northern plains. So we're kind of in a wet, relatively cool weather pattern for the moment. Perhaps another chance of frost, but basically that'll be happening in areas where that's right on schedule.